First contact shock. The day Earth's fate changed forever began like any other. Sarah Chen, junior diplomat at the United Nations, was busy preparing for yet another climate change summit when every screen in the building suddenly flickered and went dark. For a moment, she thought it was just another power outage, until a deafening, otherworldly hum filled the air, rattling windows and setting off car alarms across New York City. Outside, the sky turned an ominous shade of purple, churning like an angry sea. Sarah rushed to the window, her heart pounding, as a colossal shape emerged from the clouds. It was like nothing she'd ever seen. A city-sized vessel that defied physics, hovering silently over Manhattan. "Oh my God," she whispered, fumbling for her phone. But it was dead, like every other electronic device in sight. Panic erupted in the streets below as people pointed and screamed at the impossible sight above them. Sarah's training kicked in, and she sprinted for the emergency stairs, knowing she needed to reach the Secretary General immediately. As she descended, a bone-chilling voice boomed from everywhere and nowhere at once, speaking in perfect, accentless English. "People of Earth, we are the Galactic Council. Your quarantine has ended. Submit to integration or face extinction. You have one planetary rotation to decide." Sarah froze mid-step, her mind reeling. Quarantine, integration, extinction. The words echoed in her head as she forced herself to keep moving. She burst into the main conference room, finding it already in chaos. Diplomats from every nation were shouting, some demanding action, others calling for immediate surrender. In the center of it all stood Secretary General Adebayo, his usually calm demeanor shaken but holding. He spotted Sarah and waved her over. "Chen, what do you make of this?" he asked, his voice strained. Sarah took a deep breath, her analytical mind racing. "Sir, if this is real, and I think we have to assume it is, we need to buy time. We can't make a decision like this in 24 hours, and we certainly can't risk extinction." Adebayo nodded grimly. "Agreed. But how do we stall an alien armada?" A crazy idea struck Sarah. "Let me talk to them," she said, surprising herself with her own boldness. The room fell silent, all eyes turning to the junior diplomat. Adebayo raised an eyebrow. "You?" Sarah squared her shoulders. "Yes, sir. I studied first contact protocols as a hobby. Plus, I'm expendable. If this goes wrong, you'll need the senior diplomats for what comes next." A tense moment passed before Adebayo nodded. "Do it. But for God's sake, be careful." As if on cue, a shimmering portal opened in the center of the room. Sarah swallowed hard and stepped through, finding herself instantly transported to a vast, alien chamber. Towering beings of swirling energy stood before her, their forms barely contained by translucent suits. One being floated forward, its voice resonating directly in Sarah's mind. "You speak for Earth." Sarah straightened, channeling every ounce of diplomatic training she had. "I speak to seek clarification on behalf of Earth's people. We are a diverse planet with many cultures and governments. To make a decision of this magnitude, we require more time and information." The beam's form pulsed, and Sarah felt waves of irritation wash over her. "Your quarantine was meant to contain your chaotic nature. This response proves its necessity." Sarah's mind raced. They saw humanity's diversity as a weakness, a chaos to be controlled. She needed to spin this. "Respectful Galactic Council," she began, her voice steadier than she felt. "It is precisely our diversity that has driven our rapid advancement. In mere centuries, we've gone from horse-drawn carriages to space exploration. Our chaos is our strength, allowing us to approach problems from countless angles." She felt a ripple of surprise from the aliens. "Good," she pressed on. "We don't ask to avoid integration, merely to approach it in a way that preserves the uniqueness that could benefit the Galactic Council. Imagine the advancements we could offer if given the chance to integrate on our terms." The chamber hummed with unspoken communication. Finally, the lead being spoke again. "You propose Sarah silently thanked every diplomatic negotiation she'd ever observed. A preparation period. 72 hours for us to organize our governments, inform our people, and prepare for integration. This will make the process smoother for everyone and showcase our ability to unify quickly when needed. More humming, more waiting. Sarah's legs trembled with the effort of standing tall under the alien scrutiny. Granted, the voice finally boomed. 72 hours. Then we expect full compliance. Before Sarah could respond, she was back in the UN conference room, gasping for air. The diplomats erupted in questions, but Adebayo silenced them with a raised hand. Report, Chen. Sarah quickly recounted the exchange. As she finished, the room burst into frenzied planning. Adebayo pulled her aside, his expression grave. You've bought us time, but now we have an even bigger problem. How do we prepare for an integration we know nothing about? And can we trust that extinction isn't still on the table? Sarah opened her mouth to respond, but was cut off by a searing pain behind her eyes. She staggered, vision blurring. Around her, others clutched their heads, some crying out in pain. And then she saw it, a symbol, ancient yet familiar, burning in her mind's eye. A spiral within a triangle, pulsing with an otherworldly light. As quickly as it came, the vision faded, leaving Sarah gasping. Did everyone see that? She panted. Nods and murmurs of confirmation rippled through the room. Adebayo's phone, now functioning again, buzzed incessantly. It's not just us, he said, scrolling through messages. Reports coming in from all over the world. Everyone saw the same symbol. Sarah's analytical mind kicked into overdrive. Sir, this can't be a coincidence. The aliens appear, and suddenly we're all having the same vision. This symbol must mean something. A commotion at the door drew their attention. Dr. Yuki Tanaka, Earth's leading archaeologist, burst in, her face flushed with excitement. Secretary General, you won't believe this. That symbol, we've seen it before. Ancient sites all over the world, hidden in plain sight. I always thought it was just a recurring motif, but now. She trailed off, her implications clear. Adebayo's expression hardened with resolve. Chen, Tanaka, with me. Everyone else, start emergency protocols. We have 72 hours to figure out what the hell is going on and how it can save us from either submission or extinction. As they hurried out, Sarah's mind whirled. First contact, alien ultimatums, and now a mysterious ancient symbol connecting it all. Whatever was coming, she had a feeling that humanity's greatest challenge, and perhaps its greatest revolution, was just beginning. The next 72 hours would change everything. And somehow Sarah knew she was going to be right in the middle of it all. Race against time. The next 36 hours passed in a blur of global panic, frantic diplomacy, and desperate research. Sarah Chen found herself at the center of it all, her unexpected role in the alien negotiations thrusting her into a position of unlikely authority. As she pored over ancient texts with Dr. Tanaka, the symbol from their shared vision seemed to mock them from every page. It's here, it's there, it's everywhere, Dr. Tanaka muttered, pushing her glasses up her nose. But what does it mean? Before Sarah could respond, the door burst open. A lanky man with wild hair and wilder eyes stormed in, clutching the laptop. You need to see this, he said without preamble, shoving the computer at them. I'm Dr. Alexander Novak, astrophysicist, and I think I found something. On the screen, a pulsing signal emanated from somewhere in the Arctic Circle. This signal, Novak explained, his accent thickening with excitement, it appeared the moment the alien ship arrived. And its pattern. It matches the symbol exactly. Sarah and Dr. Tanaka exchanged glances. We need to tell the Secretary General, Sarah said. Within hours, a hastily assembled team was en route to the Arctic. Sarah, Dr. Tanaka, Dr. Novak, a military escort led by Major Diane Harper, and a skilled pilot named Raj Patel. As their plane neared the coordinates, The instruments began to go haywire. "It's just like in New York," Sarah murmured, watching the electronics flicker and die. Raj fought with the controls. "Hang on," he growled. "This landing's gonna be rough." The plane skidded across the ice, finally coming to a stop perilously close to a massive glacial crevasse. As the team disembarked, the alien mothership loomed in the purple sky above, a constant reminder of their dwindling time. 33 hours left, Major Harper announced, checking her old-fashioned wind-up watch. "Let's move." They trudged through the snow, following Dr. Novak's directions. As they approached the signal source, the ice beneath their feet began to rumble. "Look out!" Raj yelled as a chasm opened up, swallowing Dr. Tanaka. Sarah lunged, barely catching the archaeologist's hand. "Hold on." Sarah grunted, straining to pull her up. Major Harper and Raj rushed to help, and together they hauled Dr. Tanaka to safety. As they caught their breath, they realized the chasm hadn't formed naturally. Smooth, metallic walls lined its sides, descending into darkness. "It's an entrance," Dr. Tanaka breathed, eyes wide with wonder. "An artificial structure, hidden beneath the ice." They rappelled down, flashlights revealing intricate patterns carved into the walls, the same symbol that had haunted their visions, repeated in endless variations. At the bottom, they found themselves in a vast chamber that defied belief. It was a city, an entire underground metropolis stretching farther than their legs could reach. And everywhere, lining the walls and filling great halls, were pods, countless transparent capsules, each containing what looked like a sleeping human. "My God," Major Harper whispered, "what is this place?" Before anyone could answer, a holographic image flickered to life in the center of the chamber. A being that looked almost human, but not quite, regarded them with glowing eyes. "Greetings, descendants," the hologram said, its voice echoing through the cavernous space. "I am ARIA, the Artificial Reconstitution and Integration Assistant. You have arrived just in time." Sarah stepped forward. "In time for what? Who are these people? Why are they here?" Aria's expression shifted to something like sadness. "These are your ancestors, the true history of humanity. Long ago, we were a spacefaring civilization, engaged in a terrible war that spanned the galaxy. This facility was our last hope, a place to preserve our people until the threat had passed." The team exchanged shocked glances. Dr. Novak found his voice first. "But the aliens above, the Galactic Council, they said we were quarantined." "A lie," Ariah said firmly. "Or perhaps a misunderstanding. We chose isolation, seeding your world with our children, your earliest ancestors, while the best of our civilization slept here, waiting for the day we would be needed again." Sarah's mind raced. "And that day is now, with the Galactic Council threatening us." Ariah nodded. "Precisely. But awakening the sleepers is not a simple process. There are safeguards, fail-safes to prevent premature revival. You must prove yourselves worthy descendants to unlock the awakening." Suddenly, the chamber trembled. Dust and ice rained down as a terrible screech filled the air. "What's happening?" Raj shouted over the noise. Aria's image flickered. "The Galactic Council. They've detected our power signature. They're trying to breach the facility." Major Harper readied her weapon. "How long do we have?" "Unknown," Ariah replied. "But if they succeed before the awakening protocol is complete, all will be lost. You must hurry." The hologram waved its hand, and 5 pedestals rose from the floor, each bearing a different symbol. 5 trials, Ariah explained, each testing a quality our people held dear. Complete them, and you will prove humanity still carries the spark of its ancestors. Another tremor shook the chamber. A crack appeared in the distant ceiling, a thin beam of purple light slicing through the darkness. "They're cutting through the ice," Dr. Tanaka realized, horror in her voice. Sarah squared her shoulders, meeting each team member's eyes. "Then we don't have a choice. Whatever these trials are, we have to face them. For humanity." The others nodded grimly. They approached the pedestals, each choosing one almost instinctively. Sarah placed her hand on the central pedestal, and the world around her dissolved into light. She found herself in a simulated council chamber, facing alien delegates hurling incomprehensible demands. With a start, she realized this was a test of diplomacy, her specialty. In other corners of the vast facility, her teammates faced their own challenges. Dr. Tanaka grappled with complex historical puzzles, piecing together the true history of Earth and its ancient civilization. Dr. Novik's mind was stretched to its limits, solving astrophysical equations that would baffle even the most advanced modern scientists. Major Harper found herself in pitched battles against simulated alien forces, testing not just her combat skills, but her strategic thinking. And Raj was thrown into increasingly impossible piloting scenarios, pushing the limits of human reflexes and spatial awareness. As they struggled through their trials, the chamber continued to shake. The crack in the ceiling widened, the ominous purple glow growing stronger. In her simulated council chamber, Sarah argued passionately for humanity's right to exist, drawing on everything she'd learned in her career and this insane adventure. Just as she felt she was making headway, the simulation flickered. Aria's voice cut through, urgent and distorted. "The Council breaches our outer defenses. Hurry." Sarah redoubled her efforts, her words flowing with newfound power and conviction. Around the chamber, her teammates pushed through their own final challenges. A massive tremor rocked the facility. The crack split open, and a blinding beam of energy lanced down, cutting into the floor barely 100 meters from the team. "Now," Aria's voice boomed, "complete your trials." With a final push of will and skill, each team member overcame their last obstacle. The pedestals glowed brilliant white, then shot beams of energy into the center of the chamber. The pods lining the walls began to pulse with light. The sleeping figures inside stirred. "You have done it," Aria announced, its holographic form growing to fill the chamber. "The awakening has begun, but the process will take time we do not have." The beam from above widened, and the screech of tearing metal filled the air as something began to descend through the opening. "What do we do?" Sarah shouted, reuniting with her team as they backed away from the encroaching threat. Aria's giant form looked down at them, its expression both proud and sad. "You have proven yourselves true children of the stars. Now you must run. Warn the sleepers. Prepare your world." "But," Sarah began, but Aria cut her off. "Go. Through that passage. It will lead you to safety. I will hold them off as long as I can." As the team hesitated, torn between staying to help and following Aria's order, the AI's voice softened. "You have done well, children of Earth, but the true battle is yet to come. Now, run." With one last look at the awakening ancestors, Sarah and her team sprinted for the indicated passage. Behind them, Aria's form blazed with blinding light, confronting the descending alien threat. The last thing they heard as the passage sealed behind them was Aria's voice, thundering through the chamber. "You should have left them alone. The children of Earth are under our protection, and now you have awakened their guardians. Run, Galactic Council. Run while you still can." As Sarah and her team raced through the twisting tunnel, heading back to a world that would never be the same, one thought burned in her mind. The real war was just beginning. Awakening the warrior gods. The journey back to civilization was a blur of adrenaline and disbelief. Sarah Chen and her team emerged from the hidden Arctic facility to find the world in chaos. The Galactic Council's massive ships now hovered over every major city, their presence a constant, looming threat. As their emergency transport sped towards New York, Dr. Tanaka pored over the data they'd managed to salvage from Aria. "It's incredible," she murmured. "Our entire understanding of human history. It's all wrong." "Save the history lesson," Major Harper growled, her eyes fixed on the purple-tinged sky. "We need a plan for right now." Sarah nodded, her diplomat's mind racing. We need to get to the UN. If we can convince the world's leaders of what we've discovered, maybe we can unite humanity before. A blinding flash cut her off. Their transport shuddered as a shockwave rolled over them. In the distance, a mushroom cloud bloomed over what used to be Chicago. Too late, Raj whispered, his knuckles white on the controls. Someone panicked. The next few hours were a nightmare of narrowly avoided destruction and frantic communication. By the time they reached the UN headquarters, the world was on the brink of both civil war and alien annihilation. They burst into the General Assembly, where representatives from every nation argued loudly in 100 languages. Secretary General Adebayo spotted them and quickly ushered them to a side room. "Report," he demanded, his usual calm cracking under the strain. Sarah took a deep breath and launched into their incredible tale. As she spoke, Adebayo's expression shifted from disbelief to wonder to grim determination. "So these ancestors are awakening?" he asked when she finished. "When will they get here? What can they do against the Galactic Council?" Before Sarah could answer, a commotion erupted outside. They rushed back into the General Assembly to find all eyes fixed on the massive view screen. The image showed the Arctic, where a colossal structure was rising from the ice. "It's them," Dr. Novak breathed. "The ancestral city." As they watched, the city continued to ascend, revealing itself to be a gargantuan spacecraft. It rose into the atmosphere, dwarfing even the Galactic Council's massive ships. Suddenly, every screen in the room flickered. A face appeared, humanoid, but with an otherworldly beauty that made everyone gasp. When it spoke, its voice resonated not just through the speakers, but in their minds. "People of Earth, children of our legacy, we have awakened." The room erupted in a cacophony of questions and exclamations. Sarah felt a tug on her consciousness, a pull she couldn't explain. Without thinking, she stepped forward and spoke. "Great Ancestor," she said, surprising herself with the title. "We welcome you, but please, we need your help." "The Galactic Council." "We know," the being interrupted, its voice gentle but powerful. "Their quarantine was misguided, born of fear. We will address them. But first, we must reconnect with you, our children." The being's eyes seemed to focus directly on Sarah. "You, who helped awaken us, you will be our bridge." Before Sarah could respond, her world dissolved into light. When her vision cleared, she found herself in a vast, shimmering chamber aboard the ancestral ship. Around her, her teammates materialized, looking as disoriented as she felt. "Okay, what the hell just happened?" Major Harper demanded, her hand instinctively reaching for a weapon that was no longer there. "I believe," a melodious voice answered, "that we happened." They turned to see a group of beings approaching. They looked human, but more perfected. Their skin seemed to glow from within, and their eyes held depths of wisdom that made Sarah's head spin. One being stepped forward, radiating an aura of leadership. "I am Zephyr, High Guardian of the Ancestral Fleet. We have much to discuss, and little time." Over the next hour, Sarah and her team experienced a crash course in the true history of humanity. Through a mind-melding process that felt like downloading an entire library directly into their brains, they learned of humanity's former glory, the terrible war that led to their retreat, and the carefully orchestrated plan to preserve their civilization. "But why?" Sarah asked, her mind reeling from the influx of information. "Why didn't you leave any clear signs for us? Why let us develop from scratch?" Zephyr's expression turned sad. "The enemy we faced, a threat far greater than this Galactic Council, hunted us relentlessly. We had to erase all traces of our true nature to protect you as you grew." "And now," Dr. Tanaka asked, "are they still out there?" "Unknown," Zephyr replied, "which is why we must proceed cautiously. But first, we must deal with the immediate threat." As if on cue, alarms blared throughout the ship. Zephyr's eyes unfocused for a moment, then snapped back to the group. The Galactic Council grows impatient. They're preparing to fire on your cities. Major Harper stepped forward, her military training kicking in. What are our options? What kind of firepower do we have? Zephyr smiled, but it wasn't entirely comforting. Oh, we have plenty of firepower, child, but that is a last resort. First, we negotiate. With a wave of his hand, a shimmering portal opened in the center of the chamber. Through it, they could see the UN General Assembly. Come, Zephyr said. Let us introduce ourselves properly to your world. They stepped through the portal, materializing on the main floor of the UN. The room fell into a stunned silence. Secretary General Adebayo was the first to find his voice. Who? What are you? Zephyr stepped forward, his presence filling the room. We are humanity's past, and if you'll have us, your future. We are your ancestors, returned to help you claim your birthright among the stars. The room exploded into questions, exclamations, and not a few fearful cries. Sarah watched as Zephyr fielded each with patience and wisdom, slowly winning over the crowd. Suddenly, the building shook. Outside, the Galactic Council's ships were moving into attack formation. Zephyr's eyes flashed. He raised a hand, and every piece of technology in the room, phones, tablets, the giant view screens, sprang to life. The face of the Galactic Council's leader appeared, a beam of swirling energy barely contained in a humanoid form. So, the alien's voice boomed. The sleepers have awakened. You were warned, humans. Your quarantine is over, and you have chosen extinction. Zephyr stepped forward, his voice ringing with authority. You speak to the wrong humans, counselor. I am Zephyr, High Guardian of Earth, and you are trespassing in our system. The alien leader recoiled, its energy form flickering with what might have been fear. Impossible. Your kind was wiped out eons ago. Reports of our demise, Zephyr said with a wry smile, have been greatly exaggerated. Now, shall we discuss terms? Or would you prefer a demonstration of why your predecessors feared us so? As Zephyr began to negotiate with the increasingly flustered Galactic Council leader, Sarah felt a tap on her shoulder. She turned to find Dr. Novak, his eyes wide with excitement. Do you realize what this means? He whispered. Everything we know about physics, about the universe, it's just the tip of the iceberg. The things we could learn from them. Sarah nodded, her own mind spinning with the possibilities. But as she watched Zephyr deftly maneuver the Galactic Council into a corner, a sobering thought struck her. If this is what our ancestors can do, she murmured, what kind of threat were they running from? As if sensing her thoughts, Zephyr glanced her way. For a moment, she saw past his confident exterior, glimpsing a deep well of ancient worry. The real challenges, Sarah realized, were just beginning. Humanity had reclaimed its legacy, but with it came responsibilities and dangers beyond imagination. And somewhere out in the darkness between the stars, an old enemy might be stirring, drawn by the awakening of the long-lost children of Earth. Battle for Earth's soul. The next few days were a whirlwind of activity as humanity grappled with its new reality. The ancestral fleet, as it came to be known, had taken up defensive positions around Earth, their massive ships dwarfing even the Galactic Council's impressive armada. Sarah Chen found herself at the center of it all, acting as a liaison between the UN, the ancestors, and the increasingly agitated Galactic Council. As she hurried through the corridors of the UN building, now bustling with a mix of humans and ancestors, she couldn't shake the feeling that they were all balanced on a knife's edge. Sarah, Dr. Tanaka called out, jogging to catch up. You need to see this. She handed Sarah a tablet displaying a live feed from orbit. The Galactic Council's ships were shifting formation, taking up aggressive stances around the planet. Damn, Sarah muttered. They're not backing down. Before she could say more, alarms blared throughout the building. Secretary General Adebayo's voice came over the intercom. All personnel to emergency stations. This is not a drill. Sarah and Dr. Tanaka exchanged grim looks before sprinting to the command center. They burst in to find barely controlled chaos. Holographic displays showed the unfolding situation in orbit, where the Galactic Council's ships were powering up their weapons. Zephyr stood at the center of the room, his face a mask of concentration, as he communicated telepathically with the ancestral fleet. He turned as Sarah approached. "It seems," he said, his voice tight, "that diplomacy has failed. The Council has chosen war." As if to punctuate his words, a blinding beam of energy lanced down from one of the Council's ships, aimed at New York. Everyone braced for impact, but the blast dissipated harmlessly against an iridescent shield that shimmered into visibility around the city. "A planetary defense system," Zephyr explained, noting Sarah's shocked expression. "One of many gifts we left buried for you to find when the time was right." Major Harper stepped forward, her military training kicking in. "What's our counterattack plan?" Zephyr's eyes glowed with an inner light. "We have ships emerging from hidden bases on your moon and Mars as we speak, but this battle will be fought on many fronts." As if on cue, reports began flooding in from around the globe. Galactic Council forces had somehow bypassed the planetary shield in several locations, dropping troops into major cities. "Infiltrators," Zephyr growled. "They must have been here for months, preparing for this." Secretary General Adebayo took charge. "We need to coordinate a global response. Sarah, work with Zephyr to manage our orbital defenses. Dr. Tanaka, Dr. Novak, see if you can find a way to strengthen our shields. Major Harper, coordinate with global military forces to repel the ground invasion." As the team scattered to their tasks, Sarah felt a hand on her shoulder. She turned to find Raj, the pilot, looking uncharacteristically serious. "I'm heading up," he said. "The ancestors are letting some of us fly their ships. Figured my skills might be useful." Sarah nodded, a lump in her throat. "Be careful up there." Raj grinned, some of his usual bravado returning. "Always am. Try not to miss me too much, yeah." As he jogged off, Sarah turned back to the holographic displays. The space around Earth had erupted into a dazzling, terrifying light show as ancestral and council ships exchanged fire. "Fascinating, isn't it?" Zephyr murmured, coming to stand beside her. "The very weapons we developed to fight our ancient enemy are now being used to defend our children." Sarah glanced at him sharply. "You still haven't told us much about this ancient enemy. Are they connected to the Galactic Council?" Zephyr's expression darkened. "No. The Council is misguided, but not malevolent. Our true enemy is something far worse. Let us hope this conflict doesn't draw their attention." Before Sarah could press further, a new alert blared. On the main screen, a Galactic Council ship was breaking through the orbital defense line, heading straight for the New York shield. "They're going to try to overload it," Zephyr realized aloud. His eyes unfocused for a moment as he communicated with the fleet. "We can't get a ship there in time." Sarah's mind raced. "What about the defense system? Can we use it to strike back?" Zephyr looked at her with a mix of pride and sorrow. "We can. But firing a planetary-scale weapon at this range, the collateral damage to the city would be catastrophic." Sarah felt the weight of countless lives settling on her shoulders. It was an impossible choice: risk millions in New York, or potentially lose the entire planet if their defenses fell. "Do it," she said, her voice barely a whisper. Zephyr nodded grimly and gave the command. The air itself seemed to vibrate as an enormous energy beam erupted from somewhere beneath the city, spearing upward through the shield. It struck the descending council ship dead center, vaporizing it instantly. But the cost was high. The backlash from the weapon shattered windows across Manhattan, and several buildings crumbled under the strain. Emergency services were immediately overwhelmed. "We've held them off," Zephyr said softly, "but at what cost?" Before Sarah could respond, Dr. Novak burst into the room, his eyes wild with excitement. "We've figured it out," he shouted. "The Council's ships, they're using a quantum entanglement drive. If we can disrupt the entanglement..." We can shut down their entire fleet at once, Zephyr finished, his eyes widening with realization. The next hour was a frenzy of activity as ancestral scientists worked with Dr. Novak and Dr. Tanaka to modify the planetary defense system. All the while, the battle raged on, with casualties mounting on both sides. Finally, Dr. Tanaka looked up from her console, exhaustion etched on her face. It's ready. But we'll only get one shot at this. Secretary General Adebayo stepped forward. Do it. With a nod, Dr. Tanaka activated the system. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, like dominoes falling in slow motion, the Galactic Council ships began to drift, their lights flickering out one by one. A cheer went up around the room, but Sarah couldn't bring herself to join in. The screens still showed the devastation wrought on cities around the world. As the Council ships hung powerless in orbit, a transmission came through. The face of the Council leader appeared, its energy form dimmed and flickering. "We surrender," it said, its voice weak. "We underestimated you, humans. And you," it turned its attention to Zephyr. "We owe your people an apology that has been millennia in the making." Zephyr stepped forward, his voice firm but not unkind. "Your apology is accepted, Counselor. But know this. Earth is under our protection now. The human race will take its place among the stars, not as subjects, but as equals." As the transmission ended, Sarah felt a wave of exhaustion wash over her. They had won, but the cost had been enormous. And judging by the worried look that still lingered in Zephyr's eyes, their troubles were far from over. "What now?" she asked, voicing the question on everyone's mind. Zephyr gazed out at the ravaged city beyond the UN building. "Now, we rebuild, we teach, we prepare." His eyes met Sarah's, and she saw in them a mix of hope and ancient worry. "For this victory has announced our presence to the galaxy, and not all who hear that announcement will be as manageable as the Council." As the first rays of dawn broke over a changed Earth, Sarah realized that humanity stood at a crossroads. They had reclaimed their cosmic legacy, but with it came challenges beyond imagination. The battle for Earth's soul had been won, but the war for humanity's future was just beginning. And somewhere in the vast, dark spaces between the stars, ancient and terrible eyes might be turning once again towards the little blue planet that had dared to awaken its sleeping gods. Humanity unbound. In the weeks following the battle with the Galactic Council, Earth became a hive of activity unlike anything in human history. The skies, once empty save for the occasional airplane, now teemed with ships of all sizes as the ancestral fleet helped with reconstruction efforts. Sarah Chen stood on the balcony of the newly rebuilt UN headquarters, watching as a group of ancestral engineers used gravity manipulation technology to effortlessly lift a toppled skyscraper back into place. Even after everything she'd seen, the sight still filled her with awe. "Impressive, isn't it?" a familiar voice said behind her. She turned to see Zephyr, the High Guardian, his ageless face bearing a slight smile. "It's incredible," Sarah agreed. "At this rate, we'll have undone most of the damage from the battle within months." Zephyr's expression grew serious. "The physical damage, yes, but the changes to your world, to your species, those are permanent." Before Sarah could respond, her comm device chimed. "Sorry," she said, checking the message. "The Council is gathering. They're ready to begin the debate." Zephyr nodded. "Then let us not keep them waiting. The decision your people make today will shape the course of human history for millennia to come." As they made their way to the General Assembly Hall, Sarah marveled at how quickly humans had adapted to their new reality. Representatives from every nation mingled with ancestral advisors, discussing everything from advanced physics to cosmic politics. They entered the hall to find it already buzzing with activity. Secretary General Adebayo called for order as Sarah and Zephyr took their seats. "Representatives of Earth," Adebayo began, his voice solemn. "We stand at a crossroads unlike any our species has faced before. The question before us is simple, Yet its implications are vast. How do we proceed in this new era of human history? The debate that followed was anything but simple. Some nations pushed for rapid integration with galactic society, eager to explore the stars. Others advocated for isolation, fearing that exposure to advanced alien cultures would erode human identity. We can't just hide away, Dr. Novick argued passionately. The scientific advancements we could make, the discoveries waiting out there. At what cost? Interrupted the representative from Japan. We've already seen how dangerous the galaxy can be. Wouldn't we be safer focusing on protecting Earth? On and on it went, the arguments growing heated. Sarah watched, her heart heavy. How could they hope to unite humanity when they couldn't even agree on this fundamental question? Suddenly, the doors burst open. Major Harper strode in, her face grim. "I apologize for the interruption," she said, "but you all need to see this." With a nod from HFY, she activated the main screen. It showed a live feed from a deep space monitoring station. At first, Sarah couldn't make sense of what she was seeing. Then her blood ran cold. Something was moving out there in the darkness between the stars. Something massive. Zephyr was on his feet in an instant, his usual calm shattered. "No," he whispered. "It's too soon. We're not ready." The room erupted into panicked questions, but Zephyr raised a hand for silence. When he spoke, his voice was heavy with ancient dread. "What you see there is the vanguard of the enemy we fled from eons ago. The threat that forced us into hiding, that nearly wiped us out. We called them the Devourers, for they consume entire civilizations, entire galaxies." A stunned silence fell over the assembly. Sarah found her voice first. "But why are they here? Why now?" Zephyr's eyes met hers, filled with sorrow and determination. "Because of us. Our awakening, the battle with the Galactic Council. It was like a beacon, announcing our presence to the cosmos." The implications hit Sarah like a physical blow. In reclaiming their heritage, had they doomed humanity? As if reading her thoughts, Zephyr continued, "All is not lost. We have knowledge, technology, and experience in fighting this foe, but we cannot do it alone." He turned to address the entire assembly. "The debate you are having is now moot. Isolation is no longer an option. The only path forward is unity, not just of Earth, but of all sentient species who value life and freedom." The room was silent for a long moment. Then, slowly, voices began to rise in agreement. The threat of annihilation had accomplished what no amount of debate could. It had united humanity. Secretary General Adebayo stepped forward. "Then let it be resolved. Earth will join the galactic community, not as conquerors or subjects, but as defenders of life itself." As the resolution was formally adopted, Sarah felt a tap on her shoulder. She turned to find Raj, grinning despite the dire news. "So," he said, "looks like we're going to need pilots for this big space adventure. Got room for one more on your team?" Despite everything, Sarah found herself smiling back. Always. The next few months were a frenzy of activity. The ancestral fleet worked tirelessly to upgrade Earth's defenses while sharing advanced technology with human scientists. The Galactic Council, humbled by their defeat and fearful of the coming threat, pledged their full support. Sarah watched in amazement as the first human-crewed starships took flight, joining the growing Alliance fleet. Each day brought new wonders, new challenges, and new reasons for hope. One evening, as she stood watching the sunset from the orbital station that now served as Earth's primary link to the galaxy, Zephyr joined her. "Having second thoughts?" he asked gently. Sarah shook her head. "No, it's just overwhelming sometimes. A few months ago, I was a junior diplomat worried about climate treaties. Now I'm helping coordinate the defense of the galaxy." Zephyr chuckled. "If it's any consolation, you're doing an admirable job. Your ability to bridge the gap between humans, ancestors, and our alien allies is invaluable." "Thanks," Sarah said, then hesitated. "Zephyr, do you think we can win against the Devourers?" The High Guardian was silent for a long moment, his gaze fixed on the stars emerging in the darkening sky. "I don't know," he admitted finally. "But I do know this: united, we have a chance. And sometimes, a chance is all you need to change the course of history." As if to underscore his words, a fleet of ships suddenly dropped out of faster-than-light travel nearby. Sarah recognized the insignia of the Galactic Council, but these weren't the battle cruisers they'd faced before. These were cargo ships, laden with resources and volunteers eager to join the fight. "Look," Zephyr said, a smile playing on his lips. "Not so long ago, they came to subjugate Earth. Now they come as allies, as equals." Sarah nodded, feeling a swell of pride and determination. Humanity had faced its trial by fire, and emerged stronger, wiser, and united not just with itself, but with the galaxy. As the cargo ships docked with the station, bringing new allies and resources for the coming battle, Sarah squared her shoulders. The road ahead would be difficult, filled with challenges they could scarcely imagine. But they would face it together, humans, ancestors, and aliens alike. The Devourers were coming, but this time they wouldn't find a scattered, frightened humanity hiding in the dark. This time they would face a united front of all sentient life, with humanity standing proudly at its center. "Let them come," Sarah thought. "We'll be ready." And as the stars wheeled overhead, promising both peril and possibility, humanity took its first true steps into a larger universe. No longer quarantined, no longer hiding, but standing tall as defenders of life itself. The real adventure was just beginning.